Silent Witness, Unveiling the Dark Secrets of Brooksville, a crime thriller story. In the quiet town of Brooksville, a murder shatters the tranquility, revealing a web of sinister secrets. As Detective Mark Reynolds delves into the chilling mystery behind a brutal killing and a cryptic symbol, he uncovers a hidden world of darkness that threatens to consume the town. Brace yourself for a gripping crime thriller filled with suspense and unexpected twists. Brooksville, with its serene streets and friendly faces, was forever altered on a moonless October night. The town, known for its tranquil existence, was shrouded in an eerie silence that replaced its usual nighttime sounds. In a forgotten alley behind the old cinema, the body of a young woman lay lifeless, her death marked by a single brutal blow. Lily Evans, a 12-year-old girl used to the quiet of her own thoughts, stumbled upon this horror during a rare evening walk with her mother, Sarah. As they turned the corner, Lily's heart raced at the sight of the body, and she clutched her mother's hand, pointing in terror. Sarah's scream shattered the night, prompting a swift police response. The alley was soon illuminated by flashing squad car lights and filled with murmurs of concern. Amidst the chaos, Lily remained silent, her fear too profound to express in words. Detective Mark Reynolds arrived as dawn broke, his sharp instincts and calm demeanor well regarded in solving tough cases. Noticing the peculiar red chalk symbol, a simple drawing of an eye with a slash, he approached Lily, who was wrapped in a blanket and sitting on the curb. Lily. I'm Detective Reynolds. Can you tell me what you saw? He asked gently. Lily's fearful gaze and silent shake of the head led her to pull out a small notebook and pencil. She drew a crude representation of the alleyway and the symbol, indicating its significance. Reynolds carefully studied her drawing, noting its details. "We need your help to understand what happened," Reynolds said. "If you remember anything, let us know." As Brooksville awoke, the once peaceful town was now gripped by fear. The alley was sealed for investigation, and Police Chief Raymond Collins worked to piece together the scant evidence. The tranquility had vanished, replaced by a palpable sense of unease. Sarah Evans took Lily home, the house filled with tense silence. Detective Reynolds, feeling that the case was more complex than it seemed, planned to visit Lily and her family the next day for more insights. As night fell again, the town awaited answers. For Lily, the silence of the night was heavy with the truth she had witnessed. Brooksville, once peaceful, now stood in uncertainty, and Detective Reynolds was determined to uncover the truth. Detective Mark Reynolds arrived at the Evans home in the late afternoon, the autumn sun casting long shadows over the quiet street. The modest two-story house, once a symbol of normalcy, was now at the center of a murder investigation. Reynolds parked and approached the door, already mulling over the case details. Sarah Evans, looking exhausted, answered the door. "Detective Reynolds," she whispered. "Please come in." Inside, the house was warm but tense. Lily sat at the kitchen table with her drawing materials. She looked up, her gaze a mix of wariness and curiosity. "Hello, Lily," Reynolds said gently, taking a seat. "I hope you're okay." Lily nodded, her fingers tapping nervously. Her sketches included various symbols and scenes related to the murder. Reynolds knew her silence stemmed from fear rather than reluctance. Reynolds took out his notepad. "Any detail could help. Let's discuss your drawings." Sarah, standing by with a hopeful expression, added, "Lily's been trying to show what she saw through her art, but I'm not sure how much it helps." Reynolds focused on Lily. "Tell me what you remember from the night." Lily drew a representation of the alleyway, the body, and the symbol, a red eye with a slash. She also included a shadowy figure lurking in the background. "Do you recognize this figure?" Reynolds asked. Lily shook her head, drawing a face obscured by shadows. Reynolds sensed her deep distress. "What about the symbol?" Reynolds asked. Lily hesitated before drawing another symbol, an abstract pattern. She signed that these were part of a secret she didn't fully understand but had seen before. Reynolds thought this connection might be crucial. Did you see or hear anything unusual before finding the body? Lily sketched people walking around the alley and a loud noise, suggesting the noise might be linked to the shadowy figure. Reynolds reviewed the sketches, noting that the noise and activity might be important clues. He asked Sarah if Lily had mentioned hearing anything, but she hadn't. "Thank you for your help, Lily," Reynolds said, smiling reassuringly. "We'll investigate everything you've shared. If you remember anything else, let us know." As Reynolds left, he reminded Sarah to keep Lily safe and provide comfort. The weight of the case was heavy on Reynolds. The symbols, the shadowy figure, and the noise hinted at a deeper connection. Driving away, he knew the journey to uncover the truth would be challenging. The peaceful facade of Brooksville concealed dark undercurrents, and Reynolds was determined to reveal them. The morning after the murder, Brooksville buzzed with shock and anxiety. Detective Mark Reynolds reviewed case files and Lily's drawings, searching for clues. He revisited the crime scene, noting the chalk outline of the victim and the surrounding grime. Officer Karen Blake joined him. "Any new developments?" she asked. "Not yet," Reynolds replied. "I need to understand more about these symbols." He examined the symbol near the victim, an eye with a slash. Reynolds then spoke with Jake Morris, a local journalist. "Heard anything about this symbol?" Jake mentioned rumors of underground groups but no concrete information. Reynolds asked him to report any findings. Reynolds then visited local businesses. At the diner, Mrs. Thompson recalled hearing a loud bang late at night, which matched Lily's description of a noise before discovering the body. Reynolds thanked her and noted the significance of the sound. His next stop was the hardware store, where Mr. Harper mentioned seeing a young man acting suspiciously near the alley a few days prior. Back at the police station, Reynolds reviewed Lily's drawings again. The symbol and the shadowy figure seemed crucial. He decided to consult an expert on symbols to decode their meaning. Officer Blake reported recent minor vandalism involving similar symbols. It suggested a pattern linked to the murder. Reynolds and Blake began listing individuals connected to these disturbances and the symbols. As evening approached, Reynolds felt the urgency of the case. The investigation was piecing together, revealing a more complex story. Determined to find the murderer, Reynolds knew that uncovering the truth was essential for restoring peace to Brooksville. In the days following the murder, Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake pursued leads and examined the symbols from the crime scene. The town of Brooksville was rife with speculation and anxiety. Reynolds met with Dr. Helen Carter, a historian at the local library, to discuss the symbols. Dr. Carter identified the symbol as one associated with secrecy and exclusion, suggesting ties to hidden groups or rituals. Reynolds thanked Dr. Carter and left, now focused on investigating local organizations. He and Blake visited a community center run by Charles Hudson, who mentioned recent new members and unusual activities but did not directly link them to the symbols. They then followed up on the lead about a young man seen near the crime scene. Their search led them to Eric Dawson, a resident with erratic behavior and an interest in local symbols. Dawson's apartment was cluttered with old newspapers and sketches of symbols, including the one found at the crime scene. Eric claimed to be researching symbols for a project, but his nervousness and proximity to the crime scene raised suspicions. Reynolds decided to keep a close watch on him. As Reynolds and Blake continued their investigation, the connections between the symbols, the shadowy figure, and the murder remained unclear. The deeper they delved, the more complex the case became. Reynolds was determined to uncover the truth and expose the unseen enemy threatening Brooksville. Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake continued their investigation into the murder, now focusing on the symbols and the enigmatic group known as the Silent Watchers. Reynolds visited the local archives, where he discovered articles about unsolved vandalism cases involving similar symbols. The Silent Watchers were rumored to be behind these disturbances, operating in secrecy and leaving cryptic symbols as their signature. Reynolds briefed Blake on his findings, and they decided to investigate the group further. They visited the community center run by Charles Hudson, who provided records of recent members. One name, Jason Fields, stood out due to his frequent association with the Silent Watchers. At a local coffee shop, Reynolds and Blake found Jason Fields. Although Jason denied involvement with the Silent Watchers, he admitted to knowing about the symbols and obscure groups. His evasive responses left Reynolds unconvinced, prompting them to follow up with others linked to the Silent Watchers. That evening, Reynolds received a call from Sarah Evans, Lily's mother, about Lily's distressing nightmares and new drawings. At the Evans home, Lily showed Reynolds a depiction of a hidden room filled with symbols, suggesting a secret place connected to the murder. Reynolds saw the drawing as a crucial lead. He promised to investigate further, feeling a renewed sense of urgency. As he left the Evans house, the quiet streets of Brooksville held a deeper mystery, and Reynolds knew uncovering these secrets was essential to solving the case and restoring peace to the town. Detective Mark Reynolds was convinced that Lily's drawing of a hidden room was key to solving the case. He and Officer Karen Blake began searching for old, neglected buildings in Brooksville that might match Lily's description. Their investigation led them to a large, dilapidated warehouse on the town's outskirts. The building was overgrown with weeds and rusting machinery, giving it an air of neglect. Inside, Reynolds and Blake carefully explored the vast, dusty interior. After an hour of searching, Reynolds found a section of the wall with recent scratches and markings resembling the symbols from Lily's drawings. They pried the wall open to reveal a narrow passage leading to a hidden room. The hidden room was dimly lit and filled with old furniture, books, and strange artifacts. The walls were adorned with more symbols similar to those at the crime scene and in Lily's drawings. Reynolds took detailed notes while Blake examined the artifacts, noting their connection to secret societies or occult practices. They discovered a large, ornate book on a table, bound in worn leather and covered in cryptic symbols. The book appeared to be a manual or guide related to the Silent Watchers. Reynolds and Blake took the book and other items for further analysis. Back at the police station, Dr. Helen Carter helped interpret the findings. She explained that the book outlined rituals and practices associated with the Silent Watchers, a group that seemed to have a complex belief system centered around secrecy and control. With this new information, Reynolds and Blake followed up on leads related to the Silent Watchers. They focused on Margaret Simmons, a local historian known for her extensive knowledge of Brooksville's past. Margaret's home was filled with historical artifacts. She recognized the symbols and explained that they were linked to a secret society rumored to have operated in Brooksville during the early 20th century. Though the group was believed to have disbanded, it seemed they had resurfaced. Reynolds and Blake realized that the Silent Watchers were not just a local myth but a real and active group with a history of secrecy. Understanding their motives and connections was crucial to solving the murder. As they left Margaret's house, Reynolds felt the investigation was reaching a critical point. The secrets of the Silent Watchers were coming into focus, and uncovering them was essential to solving the case and restoring peace to Brooksville. Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake felt the weight of their investigation growing heavier. The Silent Watchers were proving to be more than a mere nuisance. They were part of a larger, sinister scheme that threatened the very fabric of Brooksville. Their first significant lead came from Tom Reed, a young informant working at a bar frequented by the Silent Watchers. Tom revealed that the group held secret meetings and one name stood out, Claire Reynolds. Though there was no relation, the name seemed significant. Tom had also pointed them toward the old mill, a possible site of these clandestine gatherings. As twilight settled over Brooksville, Reynolds and Blake approached the old mill, an eerie structure on the town's outskirts. The building's decrepit state and broken windows added to its ominous reputation. The detectives treaded carefully, knowing the potential danger. Inside, the mill was a maze of rusting machinery and rotting wood. Reynolds and Blake followed faint voices to a partially concealed room. There they found Claire Reynolds and several others gathered. The room was decorated with symbols similar to those they had seen before, reinforcing their connection to the Silent Watchers. Claire Reynolds was in the midst of a passionate speech. "Our work is crucial," she declared. "The ritual we're preparing for will bring about the change we seek. We must remain hidden and vigilant." The group's seriousness underscored the gravity of their plans. Reynolds and Blake took meticulous notes, recognizing that the silent watchers were orchestrating something significant. With their observations complete, they left the mill to report their findings. Back at the station, Reynolds and Blake reviewed their notes. "Claire Reynolds is clearly a central figure," Reynolds said. "We need to dig deeper into her background and figure out what this event might entail." Blake agreed. "I'll start looking into her connections and any upcoming events that could be related." Before they could proceed, Reynolds received a call from Sarah Evans. Lily, Sarah's daughter, was experiencing worsening nightmares and drawing more symbols. Reynolds and Blake headed to the Evans home, where Lily's latest drawing was even more disturbing. Lily's drawing depicted an elaborate version of the hidden room, now featuring a menacing figure surrounded by dark, swirling patterns. "This figure feels different," Lily said, her voice trembling. "It's like something bad is coming." Reynolds felt a chill run down his spine. The figure in the drawing was similar to the shadowy figure seen before, and the sense of impending danger was palpable. "We need to act fast," Reynolds told Blake. "The silent watchers are planning something big, and Lily's drawings suggest it's imminent. We have to prevent it from happening." With urgency driving them, Reynolds and Blake set out to uncover more about Claire Reynolds and the silent watchers' plans. The investigation had reached a critical point, and the secrets of the silent watchers were beginning to surface. The next steps would be crucial in solving the case and ensuring the safety of Brooksville. Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake faced mounting pressure as the investigation into the silent watchers reached a crucial turning point. Their recent findings underscored the gravity of their task. Unraveling the full extent of the group's plans was essential to preventing a potential disaster. Blake's deep dive into Claire Reynolds' background revealed her involvement in local community projects and activist groups, but nothing that directly linked her to illegal activities. However, her frequent attendance at meetings related to historical societies and esoteric studies hinted at a deeper fascination with occult traditions, aligning with the silent watchers' symbols and rituals. Reynolds reviewed the materials collected from the old mill, particularly the book filled with symbols and rituals. The term "the Ascension" repeatedly appeared, suggesting it was central to the silent watchers' plans. The book's detailed descriptions pointed to a ritualistic event aimed at consolidating power or achieving a significant objective. Seeking clarity, Reynolds consulted Dr. Helen Carter once more. Presenting the book and symbols, he asked, "Dr. Carter, what can you tell us about the Ascension?" Dr. Carter examined the artifacts with a scholarly gaze. "The Ascension appears to be a ritual intended to elevate the group's influence or achieve a hidden goal. The symbols and rituals suggest a form of initiation or transformation. This event might be central to the group's objectives." Reynolds felt a sense of urgency. Could this event be linked to the murder? Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. If the murder was meant to serve as a catalyst for the Ascension, or to eliminate someone who posed a threat, it would align with the secrecy and complexity of the symbols. The investigation pointed towards the upcoming full moon, suggesting that the Ascension was planned for this time. Reynolds and Blake focused on identifying the event's location and details. An anonymous tip led them to an abandoned estate on the town's outskirts, surrounded by dense woods. The estate, with its overgrown garden and crumbling walls, was the perfect setting for the silent watchers' secretive activities. Under the cover of darkness, Reynolds and Blake approached, their senses heightened by anticipation. Inside, the estate was eerie and foreboding. They navigated through the darkness, guided by the sounds of murmured voices and flickering candlelight. Reaching a large, dimly lit room, they found the silent watchers gathered for the ritual. The room was adorned with symbols and artifacts similar to those in their investigation. Claire Reynolds was at the center, leading the ceremony with chants and a ritualistic dance. The participants, clad in ceremonial robes and masks, added to the atmosphere of mystery. Reynolds and Blake observed from a hidden vantage point, gathering crucial information. Reynolds noticed a figure standing apart from the group, their presence commanding and unsettling. Determined to intervene, Reynolds signaled to Blake. As they approached, Claire Reynolds spotted them and cried out, "Stop them!" Chaos erupted as the silent watchers scrambled to respond. Reynolds and Blake acted swiftly, apprehending several group members and disrupting the ritual. Claire Reynolds resisted but was eventually subdued. The figure who had been observing revealed themselves as Eric Dawson. His face was a mixture of surprise and frustration. "You meddle in things you don't understand," he said, his voice filled with anger. Reynolds confronted Dawson. "The murder and the symbols were all part of your plan. What was your goal with this ritual?" Dawson's face twisted in rage. "The ascension was intended to solidify our control and usher in a new era for the Silent Watchers. But now everything is ruined." With Dawson and the Silent Watchers' key members in custody, Reynolds and Blake felt a significant victory. The disruption of the ascension marked a turning point in their investigation. As they left the estate, Reynolds felt a mix of relief and lingering concern. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the case had unveiled a complex web of motives and influences. The final chapter of the investigation was imminent, and Reynolds was determined to uncover the full truth behind the Silent Watchers and the murder that had set their plans into motion. The old estate was now a hive of activity. Police officers and forensic teams meticulously combed through the scene, gathering evidence and documenting every detail. Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake had successfully apprehended key members of the Silent Watchers, but they knew the most challenging part of their investigation was yet to come: uncovering the full scope of the group's plans and motives. With Eric Dawson in custody and the other members detained, Reynolds and Blake prepared for a high-stakes interrogation. Dawson's defiant attitude and the complexity of the Silent Watchers' agenda meant that understanding their full motives was crucial. In the stark, utilitarian interrogation room, Reynolds and Blake faced Dawson, seated at a metal table with his hands cuffed. A single light bulb cast harsh shadows, adding to the tense atmosphere. "Dawson," Reynolds began, his voice steady, "you've been involved in a conspiracy that led to murder and ritualistic activities. We need you to tell us everything. What was the ascension meant to accomplish?" Dawson's glare was cold, filled with a mix of anger and resignation. "You think you understand? The Silent Watchers were working towards something much greater than you can comprehend. The ascension was our way to harness power and reshape the world." Blake leaned forward, her tone firm. "Reshape the world? What does that even mean? You were responsible for a murder. Why?" Dawson's expression hardened. "The murder was necessary. We had to eliminate anyone who could interfere with our vision. The ascension required a sacrifice to purify and consecrate our path." Reynolds felt a shiver of unease. "And who was the intended sacrifice?" Dawson hesitated but eventually spoke. "The victim was chosen because they were a threat to our plans. They had connections and knowledge that could have exposed us. Removing them was essential." Reynolds and Blake exchanged a glance. It was evident that the murder was not an isolated act but a calculated part of a larger scheme. The Silent Watchers' influence and their plans were more extensive and intricate than initially understood. Reynolds pressed further. "Who else was involved in these plans? Are there other members or allies we should be aware of?" Dawson's resistance began to wane. "There are other factions and individuals who share our goals. They may continue our work now that we've been exposed. Our influence is not easily dismantled." Armed with Dawson's confession, Reynolds and Blake set out to trace the remaining leads. They needed to locate and neutralize any remaining threats and secure all possible evidence related to the Silent Watchers. Their investigation led them to several locations linked to the Silent Watchers, including hidden safe houses and contact points. Each site yielded additional evidence, documents, communication records, and artifacts that further elucidated the group's activities. As Reynolds and Blake pieced together the final fragments of the case, they uncovered a disturbing truth. The Silent Watchers network extended beyond Brooksville, with connections to other regions and influential individuals. Their plans for the Ascension were part of a broader agenda aimed at gaining power and influence on a larger scale. The final piece of the puzzle came when Reynolds received a tip-off about an upcoming meeting of the Silent Watchers' allies. The meeting was set to take place at a remote location, and it was clear that the group's plans were far from over. Reynolds and Blake prepared for one last confrontation. They needed to intercept the meeting, gather evidence, and prevent any further actions by the Silent Watchers and their associates. Undercover officers and surveillance teams were deployed to monitor the location. Reynolds and Blake, along with a tactical team, approached the site discreetly. The area was heavily guarded, and the tension was palpable. As they neared the meeting site, Reynolds received a call from Sarah Evans. "Detective Reynolds, Lily has been having more nightmares. She's drawing more symbols and mentioning something about a final ritual. She's very distressed." Reynolds' heart sank. "We're on our way. Stay with her and keep her safe." The meeting was in full swing when Reynolds and Blake arrived. The Silent Watchers' allies were gathered, discussing their plans and reviewing documents. Reynolds and his team moved in decisively, arresting the individuals and securing the site. The operation was swift and efficient. Reynolds and Blake managed to apprehend several key figures and seize critical evidence related to the group's plans. The meeting was disrupted, and the remaining members of the Silent Watchers were taken into custody. With the site secured and the individuals in custody, Reynolds and Blake returned to the station. The evidence collected, combined with Dawson's confession, provided a comprehensive understanding of the Silent Watchers' activities and their motivations. The arrest and dismantling of the Silent Watchers marked a significant victory in their investigation. The group's plans had been thwarted, and their influence effectively neutralized. As peace began to settle over Brooksville, Reynolds and Blake prepared for the final chapter of their investigation, the resolution of the murder case and the restoration of normalcy in the town. The secrets of the Silent Watchers had been revealed, and justice had been served. The courtroom was a flurry of activity as the trial of the Silent Watchers commenced. The case had drawn significant attention, capturing the interest of Brooksville and beyond. Media coverage was extensive, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Detective Mark Reynolds and Officer Karen Blake prepared to testify, their roles in unraveling the Silent Watchers' conspiracy pivotal to the proceedings. At the defense table sat the accused, Claire Reynolds, Eric Dawson, and other key members of the Silent Watchers. Their expressions ranged from defiant to resigned, each facing the weight of their actions in front of the judge and jury. The trial began with the prosecution presenting a comprehensive case. They detailed the Silent Watchers' activities, their secret meetings, and their plans for the Ascension. Photographs of the ritual artifacts, documents seized from the estate, and excerpts from Dawson's confession were shown. The prosecution's case was compelling, painting a clear picture of the Silent Watchers as a dangerous and clandestine organization. Reynolds and Blake took the stand to recount their investigation. Reynolds described the initial discovery of the murder, the trail of clues leading to the Silent Watchers, and the painstaking process of uncovering their plans. Blake detailed the surveillance, the strategic arrests, and the dramatic disruption of the ritual at the old estate. Their testimonies were crucial in establishing a direct link between the murder and the Silent Watchers' activities. During cross-examination, the defense tried to challenge the reliability of Reynolds and Blake's evidence and question the legality of their investigation. However, the evidence presented was robust, and the witnesses' credibility held firm. The defense's attempts to undermine the prosecution's case seemed increasingly futile. The trial saw poignant testimonies from the victims' families and others affected by the Silent Watchers' actions. The courtroom atmosphere was charged with emotion as the impact on Brooksville was laid bare. Residents expressed their gratitude for the resolution of the case and their deep desire for justice. The closing arguments were intense. The prosecution highlighted the premeditated and malicious intent behind the Silent Watchers' plans, stressing that the murder was a calculated act to advance their agenda. The defense contended that the accused were motivated by misguided beliefs and that their actions, though illegal, were not driven by personal gain. After several hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreman read the decision. Guilty on all counts. Claire Reynolds, Eric Dawson, and the other members of the Silent Watchers were convicted of conspiracy, murder, and related charges. The verdict was met with a mixture of relief and solemnity. Sentencing followed, with the judge imposing severe penalties on the convicted individuals. Claire Reynolds and Eric Dawson received lengthy prison terms, reflecting the gravity of their crimes. Other members of the Silent Watchers faced substantial sentences as well, ensuring that their influence was curtailed. With the legal proceedings concluded, Brooksville began its healing process from the trauma inflicted by the Silent Watchers. The town gradually returned to normalcy, but the impact of the case lingered. The community rallied together, supporting each other and rebuilding the sense of security that had been disrupted. Detective Reynolds and Officer Blake reflected on the case and their roles in resolving it. The investigation had been fraught with challenges and danger, but their efforts had brought justice to Brooksville. As they reviewed their experiences, they acknowledged the complexities and difficulties of the case. They felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that their work had made a significant difference. However, they also understood that the Silent Watchers' influence extended beyond Brooksville, and the broader implications of their plans were still unfolding. In the quiet moments after the trial, Reynolds and Blake visited Lily Evans and her mother, Sarah. Lily was recovering from her nightmares, and Sarah expressed her gratitude for the resolution of the case. "Thank you for everything," Sarah said, her voice filled with heartfelt appreciation. "Lily is finally feeling better, and we can start to move on from this nightmare." Reynolds offered a warm smile. "We're glad to hear that. It's been a long and difficult journey, but seeing the impact on your family and the community makes it all worthwhile." As the sun set over Brooksville, the town streets grew quieter. The sense of closure and peace began to settle in, and the shadows of the Silent Watchers receded. The case was resolved, but its lessons would endure, a reminder of the vigilance needed to confront the darkness and the strength of a community coming together in the face of adversity. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Dive into our playlist of crime thrillers for more intense and suspenseful stories. See you in the next story.